Welcome to the very first episode of our new podcast where we talk about the education industry in Sri Lanka. I'm Amma Korlage.
And I'm Dinuka.
So, Dinuka, what experience do you have to speak about this education industry here?
So I think I have enough experience to talk about certain things in the industry. I have about 7 or 8 years of experience, 2 years of experience in the international education scene, and about 5 years in the domestic market. So I think I'm eligible to talk about it.
Definitely you are.
What about you, Amma?
So speaking of me, I have not been in the education industry for long years. But I've been in branding and comms, and I was in journalism, and I content create on the side as well. So I am someone who likes to observe the trends, the market trends, the brands, and everything. So whatever I have noticed, I definitely would like to share with you today.
Same. Education industry was never my pick. Right. I was in media, I was in FMCG, but I actually got an opportunity about 6-7 years ago. And then in between, we experienced COVID. With COVID, the whole industry had a massive change.
That's for sure.
If you don't mind sharing, so being out of education industry during COVID, how did the digital market, in your opinion, change?
Well, I would say there was a massive change where in digital platforms, I think the new influencing this whole ideology started, and people
started watching videos, and
definitely people were home all the time, right? They wanted to do something.
They had so much of time,
and I think that was a lot of stress, right? Just staying home and just
I know. And so what we realized, with my experience in the industry during that time period, you remember how the YouTube content creators or content on YouTube, technically the video on social media, was just limited to like 2 minutes, 3 minutes. But soon after COVID, it started hitting 15 minutes, 20 minutes, sometimes 30 minutes.
That's right.
That's when we realized, wow, so content actually really works, especially for education, because of that, we are having this conversation which can take a bit of time, explain a bit of things. I think it was a good move, right?
I think so too, definitely. So all these changes that come up time to time, I think it's all for good, right? At the end of the day.
So what are we talking about today?
So actually, Dinuka, first and foremost, I was a little confused when I first joined as the brands and comms person at ECU. I was myself confused. What is this whole concept of international university, and what is specific about it?
Are you still confused? I hope not.
I guess not, but I'm open to hear more about it.
Well, international education in Sri Lanka is rather new, right? So in Sri Lanka, we've always had the state universities, the private universities or institutes affiliated with different universities providing
UK, Canada, Australia,
US, Malaysia, Singapore. So in 2019, ECU decides to open its own campus in Sri Lanka. So we right now operate as a direct campus in Sri Lanka. In 2023, that's 2 years ago, in Rajagiriya, ECU opened its 4th branch in Sri Lanka. So with that, the whole international university came into play in Sri Lanka. Now, the difference between an international university and the other universities or institutes that offers different qualification is the same, or rather, it's a different university offering qualification. Every qualification has its own value. But the difference is the facilities, what we offer for students in terms of academics, the quality of teaching, the facilities they have.
So you said the facilities and the teaching methodologies and the quality of it. So do you mean ECU here offers the same quality that is given in ECU Perth?
So I have the privilege of traveling to Perth for a couple of
pretty recently
times a year. And I saw it to my own eyes because when I was recruited too, I was wondering, okay, is it actually the same thing in Perth?
So it's a common scenario.
It is a common scenario. But I realized that it's actually what we have here is actually newer than what we have in Perth at ECU. But it's the same thing. Like, for an example, the engineering labs, the electrical engineering labs that is in Perth are the same thing that we have here. The biomedical labs to classrooms, it's pretty much the newer version of what we have in Perth. So anyone who gets to experience that international education is lucky, because now they can do it here.
Yeah.
Because, I mean,
you don't have to miss home anymore.
I was about to ask, you must be having so many friends who left the country for studies and all that, right? So we all know the story that they tell is not the same when you go.
Yes.
But here, even the local students have the opportunity of not spending that much of money to go abroad and study, to get that exposure in an international university, in an international atmosphere. The other reason why ECU and Navitas, our global partner, decides to open a campus in Sri Lanka is to open opportunities for international students. So we all know going to Australia or going to UK or US or Canada is an expensive affair, right?
Definitely.
But imagine a student from, let's say, India, Pakistan, Bangladesh, or Nepal, Bhutan, wherever in the Southeast Asian region. For them to come to study in Sri Lanka, you still have that experience of an international university, but at a fraction of the cost.
Exactly.
So it's not only an opportunity for domestic students,
but also
it's a massive opportunity for international students. So even the country, Sri Lanka as a country, is going to benefit a lot by bringing in a lot of international students.
I think we are supporting tourism here, right?
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. Are you still confused? No, you're okay?
Oh, definitely not. Definitely not. That was very clear to me.
Yeah.
Well, so another thing, Dinuka, that I've noticed here is that there are, like you said, there are state universities, there are private universities, and then here we are, international university concept right here. So in terms of what main difference that is there, if I just ask you, what can you say about it?
Like I said,
what makes us different from the rest of the private universities?
I think it's the quality of education. Don't get me wrong, I'm not saying any private institutes or state universities do not provide quality of education. I think it's internationalization in this whole, education sector, where the Sri Lankan students gets to experience the international education in Sri Lanka at their home.
I think definitely.
The difference is that you walk into a amazing facility. You do your projects in international level facilities or in classrooms. Now, for an example, ECU believes in collaborative learning, right? Our classrooms do not have, stereotype classrooms where there are tables in a row. It's all about collaborative learning. You have the highest technology. Creative thinking. I mean, our tagline is creative thinkers media. So, I mean, it is definitely different. I think more than me explaining about the difference, I think the students will say or showcase the difference that they
What about the qualification?
See, it's the same thing that the benefit of an international university in Sri Lanka is that you get the same certificate that you will get even if you go and study at ECU in Perth.
What difference is there?
What more do you want?
Exactly.
Right? You pay 1/3 or 1/4 of the cost. Right? You get the same qualification. You get to eat your mother's food.
Exactly.
Right? You get to, hang
you
out
no
with
longer
your
have to be
friends and
depressed alone there, right? It's all
Absolutely
about
not.
having an international experience,
I mean,
right?
I wish when it was my age to do university and all of that, I wish we had this type of facilities in Sri Lanka. But I mean, now everyone's lucky they have it.
If a student actually wants to study in Australia, we still give that opportunity also, right?
Of course. I mean, students who study here at ECU gets the opportunity to go after the first year or for the final year. They still, I mean, a lot of students here do that. It's just that the reason why there is an international university in Sri Lanka is so that the Sri Lankan students or the domestic students gets the opportunity to complete it here. I'll give you a good example, Anna, okay? So we did a little bit of a research about a couple of months ago from the inquiries that we get. at the stage of inquiries, everyone wants to go to Australia. I think about good 95% wants to go to Australia. Completing the foundation or the first year. But when they start studying here, when they realize that this is an amazing opportunity for them, and also when the parents realize, oh, why should I actually send my son or daughter to Australia when they can actually get that same experience here, again at a fraction of the cost, they decide to stay. So we have noticed, now ECU has their college programs as well. After college programs, their first objective was to go to Australia or to any other country. But then we've realized most of them decide to stay back and complete their degree here. So our completion rate actually has gone up to like 98% to complete in Sri Lanka. So I mean
that's impressive.
That is a
definitely that's fact, impressive. Right? Definitely. Yeah. And also the process is very easy, right? If a student wants to transfer,
they still have to go through the usual visa process, but it's a campus transfer. So this is where the whole international university or being a branch of an international campus comes into play. You are in the fourth branch of ECU. There's already a branch in Perth, Australia. So studying here gives you the opportunity to transfer your campus. It's just a transfer of a campus. However, the visa process is the same. It's the same process, but the weight of your case is much better when you write to the embassy or when you are applying. The immigration will look at it in a different aspect because you're already in an Australian university in an offshore campus. So you're applying for a campus transfer. So you become eligible as a genuine student to go to Australia because the immigration will look at it and say, oh, okay, so this guy or this girl is going to study actually in Australia. It's not only the objective of going and living there or whatever. So I think definitely there is a massive opportunity.
So Dinuka, you said something very interesting about giving the opportunity to international students as well. We have a few international students already, right?
We do have students from India, Korea, Pakistan, China, Taiwan. We do have a couple of international students. Like I mentioned earlier, the fact that Navitas and ECU decided to open an international university in Sri Lanka, in a country like Sri Lanka, is to open up opportunities for international students to study a little bit more affordable than going to these countries like Australia, Canada, or whatever, right? So, and then because there are international students, even the domestic students feel like there is a international culture, mixed cultures,
very vibrant, and the exposure is great.
Exactly, and that is what you need in an international university, right?
The balance and everything.
Everyone has to feel like they're walking into an actual international university. This gives the country a massive opportunity because, I mean, international students means they are paying their fees in different currencies. Big opportunity.
That was very interesting.
Yeah, it was.
So stay tuned for more updates on the industry and Edith Cowan University, Sri Lanka.